The story commences with a young boy named Tayson receiving a squirrel as a birthday present. He is immediately surprised, recognizing it as a divine beast. His mother, with evident pride, explains the great lengths she went to at the temple to acquire this gift, believing it to be perfectly suited for her exceptionally talented mage son. However, the so-called divine beast is far from pleased. Our protagonist, Bella, who has reincarnated into a romance novel, finds herself inexplicably gifted as a birthday present to an 11-year-old minor villain. This isn't her first time in a bizarre role, as she seems to have an unfortunate knack for reincarnating into absurd situations. Adding insult to injury, she once again finds herself trapped in a cage, further escalating her frustration. In a dizzying instant, she has been transformed into a squirrel, bestowed with the grand title of Divine Beast, and delivered to the prestigious High Red Ducal household. The Hyatt family is renowned as a distinguished lineage of mages, famous for producing the most powerful and gifted mage of each generation as their head. However, such immense power comes with a significant drawback: the stronger the mage, the harder it is for them to manage the overwhelming magical energy within their body, causing them excruciating pain. A divine beast is believed to be the only being capable of soothing such rampant magic. Possessing a divine beast is seen as proof of immense magical prowess, which is precisely why the Duchess of High Red, Ella, spared no expense in acquiring the protagonist. Her intention was to publicly demonstrate that her son, Tayson, possessed overwhelming magic. However, the protagonist knows better. She is aware that the boy is not exactly overflowing with magic. She has observed him struggling to ignite even the smallest flame, puffing and panting with the effort. Her thoughts are interrupted as the Duchess hands her to Tayson, explaining that the seal of ownership prevents the beast from leaving the manor grounds. Reluctant to remain caged, the protagonist decides to play along, feigning obedience as a pet. Tayson examines her with curiosity, finding it creepy that a beast can understand human language, which Bella finds offensive after he previously called her cute. Ella reminds Tayson that this is a divine beast, capable of absorbing magic and transforming into a human. Tayson smirks, boasting that his magic might soon make that transformation happen and jokingly suggesting he could gain another servant, which shocks Bella. Bella internally scoffs, certain his magic is far too weak for such a feat. She feels immense frustration at the thought of being stuck with this annoying boy every day. As a small animal, however, she can only silently endure, her short limbs incapable of expressing her irritation. Despite her predicament, she realizes that the ducal household might actually work to her advantage. This is because in the highest room of the western tower of the manor resides a villain from the novel, a truly extraordinary mage hidden within the Hyatt family. Bella believes that if that kid is indeed the one in the tower, then perhaps human transformation isn't just a pipe dream after all. Their gathering is interrupted when the butler informs the Duchess that someone from the tower has arrived. The Duchess's expression darkens as she asks if something is wrong. The butler explains that it's not a major issue, but the eldest young master has collapsed again with a high fever. Hearing this, Bella immediately knows it must be the young master from the tower. She internally asks if he's not dead, but the butler clarifies that he only briefly lost consciousness and his life is not in danger. The Duchess instructs the butler to ensure the young master gets plenty of rest. She then turns her attention back to her son. Bella stares intently at the Duchess. Even if he is just an adopted son, Ella's lack of concern when the child collapses like that seems ruthless to Bella. It strikes Bella that this isn't the first time the young master has collapsed, and his condition might be more serious than anyone lets on. She decides she will try to bring him something later. To avoid Tayson's relentless nagging, Bella pretends to fall asleep, much to Tayson's frustration. Tayson assumes a beast is only capable of eating and sleeping, a misconception that secretly amuses the protagonist, considering her human origins. Determined to reclaim her humanity, she resolves to transform back at any cost. As night falls, she patiently waits for Tayson to drift off to sleep. Once the opportunity arises, she gathers her meager supplies and quietly slips out of the room, successfully escaping. She begins her journey to the highest tower. Upon reaching her destination, she discovers a young boy writhing in pain. The boy, startled, notices a squirrel perched by his window, leaving him surprised. Conrad approaches the window, curious about the squirrel's presence. He notices it persistently tapping on the glass, signaling its desire for him to open the window. As he complies, the squirrel loses its balance and begins to plummet. Thankfully, Conrad manages to catch her just before she falls to the ground. He apologizes, asking if she is all right. Bella, still shaken but relieved to have survived, doesn't respond immediately. Instead, her attention is drawn to the powerful aura of magic emanating from Conrad. By simply touching him, she senses an overwhelming force. Wondering how agonizing it must be if such magic were to spiral out of control, she resolves to calm him gently. Bella taps the tip of his nose and uses her own magic to stabilize his powers. A wave of relief washes over Conrad's body as the pain he has been enduring vanishes. After a moment of stillness, Conrad smiles, recognizing her as a divine beast. Bella nods in confirmation. Conrad notices the Hyatt family crest on her body and curiously asks why she is here, considering she is Tayson's divine beast. Bella tries to speak, but Conrad, misunderstanding, smiles awkwardly and says, "You can't talk." Bella flushes at his innocent cuteness, realizing he doesn't seem like a villain at all right now. Conrad Hyatt is destined to become the novel's greatest villain. When Conrad was young, his mother, the former Duchess, passed away. The Duke of Hyatt remarried Ella and had Tayson. Later, when the Duke was called away to war, Conrad, at an age when he most needed love and care, was left alone. To make matters worse, when he turned 10, his magical powers manifested, causing him immense pain from the magical surges. Ella, focused on making Tayson the heir, was displeased by this and falsely portrayed Conrad as ill, confining him to the tower. He has lived all this time abandoned in pain and loneliness. Due to Ella's schemes, he will be sent to the battlefield 5 years from now. He will return home a war hero, having ended a long and arduous war. But with Conrad's return, tragedy will begin. The beautiful Princess Muriel, the female lead of the novel, will be given to Conrad as a reward for his heroism. Conrad, falling in love with Muriel at first sight, will yearn for her heart, only to fail because Muriel is already in love with the crown prince. Consumed by jealousy, Conrad will ultimately become the villain, stopping at nothing to separate the two lovers. Bella ponders how such a gentle and kind person could become the greatest villain in the world. She is still struggling to believe it. Her thoughts are interrupted as Conrad calls out to her. He shyly confesses that he is happy she is here and asks if he can pet her a little. Bella is instantly reminded of the rude Tayson and how kind Conrad is in comparison. Unlike Tayson, she grants him permission, and Conrad happily caresses her. He confides in her, saying how alone he has been and how this is the first time someone has stayed with him for so long. When he is sick, he says, he gets lost in dark thoughts, even wishing he had never been born. But that was all until she came. He sincerely thanks her for helping him. Bella immediately averts her eyes, wondering what it is about his face that triggers such a protective instinct in her. She had only been thinking about quickly absorbing magic and becoming human. Conrad, anticipation evident in his eyes, asks if she will come again tomorrow. Bella, who had been planning to come anyway, decides to come every single day. Even in this short time, she can feel a kindness and consideration from this child that she could never have imagined in the original novel. She wonders if perhaps Conrad became someone who doesn't hesitate to destroy others because of the pain and loneliness he endured for so many years alone. If even just one person shows him affection, she wonders if this child's future could be different. She doesn't know how much she can help, being just a squirrel, but while she is here, she decides to do her best. She vows to protect this pure and delicate child. With this intention in mind, she hands him the nut she brought. Conrad smiles gratefully upon receiving it. Before Bella can leave, Conrad promises to always keep the window open so she can come anytime. Bella waves goodbye and leaves. Conrad ponders about the divine beast, deciding he wants Tayson's divine beast all for himself. The next day, Tayson begins researching divine beasts. He reads about how divine beasts have the potential to transform into humans, noting that human-related terms are used for them. Tayson thinks of this as fussy, considering them just animals. He further reads that the gender of divine beasts can be identified by the shape of their tail. Tayson immediately grabs Bella by her tail, deciding to confirm her gender. Inspecting her tail, he deduces she is female. He hopes she is older than him, as it would be easier to make her do things then. Bella is enraged. She hopes to transform into a human and leave this place as soon as possible. She is certain Conrad will help her, as she is helping him. Plus, she is sick of eating nuts. Though she doesn't know the exact conditions for turning human, Bella thinks if she keeps absorbing Conrad's magic, she will figure something out. Night approaches, and Conrad waits for the squirrel to arrive, wondering if she will come today. He regrets not pretending to be weaker back then. His thoughts are interrupted as the squirrel makes its way to his window. His eyes immediately sparkle, and he greets the divine beast, remarking how hard it must have been for her to climb the stiff wall. he places her on the bed. Bella is touched by his kindness and pats the bed, motioning for him to lie down so she can provide her kind service. As he lies down, he talks about wanting to thank her for the acorn she gave him, and how he thought about naming her. Hearing this, Bella realizes she doesn't have a name yet. Tayson keeps calling her slave every day, enough to give her a complex. But here, Conrad intends to give her a pretty name, using only pretty words. Conrad suggests a few names, but Bella doesn't like any of them. She lets it slide because he is cute and hopes he will come up with a cute name next time. She notices how even though she has been calming him down for a while, the magic just keeps flowing endlessly. She is absorbing a much greater amount than yesterday. It feels like something is about to overflow if she keeps going. Thus, she decides not to overdo it and stops for today. As Conrad closes his eyes, Bella decides to leave. However, light begins radiating from her, taking her by surprise. In the blink of an eye, she transforms into a human. Conrad opens his eyes to find a girl by his side. He questions who she is. Bella is too stunned to speak. She looks down, realizing she is truly human now, even her voice is youthful. Embarrassed and flushed, Conrad drapes the blanket over her and suggests she cover herself properly first, then asks what happened. Bella explains that a divine beast can transform into a human. Just then, Bella returns to her beast form, confusing her and Conrad. The scene shifts back to Bella, listening to Tayson as he reads more about divine beasts. He discovers that a divine beast absorbing a large amount of magical power in a short period can temporarily become human. However, to achieve complete humanization, consistent absorption of magical power for 50 days is necessary. If humanization occurs before the 50 days are up, the magical power gathered will be completely depleted and ineffective. Tayson, annoyed by the time it takes, orders his slave to keep track of the dates. He further reads that when one feels they are excessively absorbing magical power, they must not stop but continue absorbing it for it to be preserved. Bella regrets not continuing to absorb magical power the previous day and resolves to do so daily for 50 days, believing it could help her regain her human form. She plans to cooperate with Conrad and shares this by secretly handing him a torn book page with the relevant information. Conrad, realizing he might see her human form again in 50 days, smiles internally at the thought. The next day, Tayson notices the missing page from his book and assumes his magic caused it. Unable to locate the paper as heavy rain begins, Tayson grabs Bella and shows her a shocking sight: Conrad walking in the rain. Mockingly, Tayson claims the physician recommended this as treatment for Conrad. Bella, horrified by the absurdity, worries the rain will only further weaken Conrad's fragile body. Determined to intervene, she begins gathering nuts, resolving to help him. Meanwhile, the Duchess watches Conrad from the window and questions the physician about the treatment's effectiveness. The physician insists hypothermia is beneficial for mages and notes slight improvements in Conrad's condition. He suggests extending the treatment, confident Conrad will soon revert to his previous state. The Duchess coldly agrees, trusting him to manage Conrad's care. To Ella, Conrad is a thorn in her side. When she first discovered he had inherited magic, it sent chills down her spine. She considered eliminating him immediately, but to avoid scandal about the death of the Hyatt family's eldest son, Ella decided to keep him alive for a few years. Now, due to the war, Ella can no longer eliminate the boy. The prolonged war has weakened imperial authority, and a secret strategy by the emperor requires heads of noble families to serve on the battlefield, with direct family members replacing them if they die. The Duchess cannot dream of sending Tayson to such a dangerous place, so she has no choice but to keep Conrad alive as a substitute until the war ends. She hopes the brat is grateful to her for allowing him to continue his worthless life. Bella observes the situation closely. The staff shows no sympathy for Conrad in his pain. Internally, she tells Conrad not to worry. In the original story, he may have been alone, but now she will fight alongside him. Determined, she attacks the maids with the acorns she carries. Conrad watches the scene unfold with confusion. He sees a nut fall to the ground and instantly realizes it's the divine beast. He sees this as a perfect opportunity to escape. Conrad safely returns to the tower. Bella, before leaving, watches Tayson yell in annoyance. He complains about going to the trouble of fetching water only for Conrad to be gone. Enraged, he spills the bucket of water onto the maids for letting Conrad slip away. The Duchess stops Tayson, telling him there's no need to be disappointed about not seeing his brother today, as they will call Conrad when their esteemed guests arrive tomorrow. She says it would be more enjoyable to greet the guests with his brother present. Tayson becomes excited, while Bella realizes the Duchess is talking about the Duchess Miest and her daughter, Muriel, the female lead. She panics, not expecting Conrad to meet her this early. In the original story, Conrad and Muriel were supposed to meet after the war ended. Bella wonders if this disruption is because she helped Conrad today. She is sure the Duchess and Tayson will make tomorrow even more humiliating for Conrad since he didn't succumb to the rain today. She overhears the Duchess suggesting Tayson show off his magical talents tomorrow and bring his divine beast along. This dumbfounds Bella even more. By night, Conrad's condition worsens. He thinks it's due to the rain and hopes the squirrel will show up to make him feel better. Initially, Conrad only planned to use the divine beast to calm his magic, thinking he could then use magic to overturn the Duke's estate. When he found out the squirrel needed his magic to become human, he felt relieved. Conrad thought as long as their interests aligned, the squirrel would keep coming to him. He believed their relationship would be purely one of mutual use, nothing more. But yet, it stepped up to help him today. He smiles as he watches the squirrel appear at the window and thanks her for her help. As Bella helps absorb his energy, he wonders if he can really trust her, as she was the first and only one to be on his side. Later, Bella watches Conrad sleep. Though the magic has calmed him, his fever won't go away. She looks at Conrad dejectedly. Being sick is miserable enough, and tomorrow he will be humiliated in front of outsiders. If Conrad shows up in this state tomorrow, it's like announcing to everyone that the eldest son of the Hyatt family is unfit to inherit, solidifying Tayson's position even further, exactly as Ella wants. Bella is even more irritated by Tayson today. As if he wasn't annoying enough, he really outdid himself trying to impress Muriel by putting on a facial mask of all things. Bella contemplates stomping on his face while he's sleeping, as his skin must have become so smooth that footprints would be extra visible. She decides to execute her plan and leave, however, her thoughts are disrupted when Conrad sits up, asking if she's leaving already. Bella gives in to his pretty face and decides to comfort him in advance for the hardships he's bound to face tomorrow. She comfortably lies in his hands, while Conrad wonders what this means. She points to her furry belly, suggesting he feels it. Conrad asks if she wants him to rub her belly and obliges. Conrad mumbles, expressing a wish that they could stay like this forever. Wizards calmed by divine beasts often develop a strong attachment to them, and in extreme cases, seeing their divine beast with another wizard can trigger uncontrollable jealousy. The next morning, to Bella's annoyance, she is scrubbed and cleaned by servants. She notices Tayson has also dressed up a bit for the day. Tayson enters the dining room, carrying Bella, and apologizes to the guests for the delay, saying he had to calm down his divine priest as its magic was giving him a headache. Bella side-eyes him, hearing him lie. She then looks at the female lead, Muriel, and immediately averts her eyes from her stunning beauty. Bella glances towards Conrad, hoping he might have fallen for Muriel at first sight, but to her surprise, Conrad is looking at her instead. Muriel turns, excited, exclaiming it's her first time seeing a divine beast. She says she heard they are so rare it's nearly impossible to obtain one. Duchess Miest joins in, remarking that the young master takes after Duke Hirat. Tayson politely says he is still far from matching his father. Bella internally rolls her eyes, sure Tayson would be a master con artist if trained. Muriel then asks how one receives the calming effect from a divine beast, mentioning she heard it involves physical contact. Hearing this, Conrad flinches, his eyes widening in jealousy as he watches Tayson touch Bella. Suddenly, Conrad's glass breaks, drawing everyone's attention. The Duchess Métis subtly tells Conrad to compose himself, as this is an important event. Bella frowns, finding the situation strange. She had calmed Conrad down properly yesterday, so why is his magic so unstable? She wonders if it's an after effect of being caught in the rain yesterday and decides to check on him later. However, she loses her balance and begins to fall from the table. Conrad catches her and tells her to be more careful, warning her not to wander around recklessly when he isn't there to protect her. Bella flushes, wondering why he said that so seductively. Tayson thanks Conrad and asks for his squirrel back. Conrad scoffs and smirks at Tayson's way of addressing Bella as my squirrel. He asks Tayson what her name is. He points out that since it is such a precious divine beast, they can't keep calling it yours or mine, but judging from Tayson's reaction, Conrad says it looks like he hasn't named it yet. Tayson turns furious and denies it, but panics, realizing he has been referring to the beast as slave until now. He protests that he has been working hard on coming up with a name. Conrad suggests helping him out, further infuriating Tayson. Bella shrieks, stuck in the middle of the chaos. Muriel interjects, requesting to name the divine beast as it's just so cute. Tayson instantly agrees, saying he would be honored. Bella is thankful to Muriel for perfectly timing the mood shift. Muriel promises to give her a beautiful name, praising Bella's fluffy tail and shiny black eyes. She suggests the name Black Bart. Bella hisses at the name, however, the two duchesses don't agree with the name and praise Muriel's thoughtfulness instead. Muriel ties a golden string to Bella's foot. The sudden touch makes Bella sense a wave of magic from Muriel, but her attention is diverted by the golden string tied to her foot. On the other hand, Ravina informs a man that they should never have sent that divine beast away. She insists they need to retrieve the squirrel they sold to the High Red Duke's household. She explains that the divine beast is essential for their current experiment, and none of the other divine beasts yielded results as reliable as this squirrel. Moreover, it's the Hyatt family. If by any chance the divine beast achieves humanization using Hyatt's magic, it would be in huge trouble, as it might remember what happened during the experiment. The man tells her not to worry, as they already ensured everything was checked thoroughly beforehand. He says the donation from the Duchess was so substantial they handed over the divine beast, but the magic power inside the second son of Hyatt is practically non-existent, and as for the eldest son, he's stuck in the tower due to illness, so he won't have any chance to encounter the divine beast either. Ravina thinks about how the temple has always sold divine beasts only to nobles with minimal magical power to ensure humanization never occurs. Though this case seems no different, something keeps bothering her. She says there is a possibility the eldest son's magic power might be fairly decent, so they cannot rule out the chance he may have encountered the divine beast. Above all else, the fact remains that the squirrel is essential for the current experiment, so she pleads with the man to retrieve it as soon as possible. The man sighs, thinking Ravina has once again latched onto something stubbornly and nonsensically. He agrees, promising to come up with a justification soon and try to retrieve the divine beast. That night, Bella approaches Conrad's room as usual. It has been over 40 days since she started absorbing magic from him. It is clear his complexion is different from before, and lately, a soapy aroma has been filling the air too. She hopes he will continue to improve. Before she can begin her usual healing, Conrad tells her they will take it slow today, so she can leave once everything is settled. He suggests she stay a little longer with him today. At times like this, Bella remembers how he is just a kid. She agrees to his request, making Conrad delighted. Bella spends the time playing with his hair. Conrad stares at the golden string Muriel gave Bella. His smile fades, and he puts her on the table. He confesses that calling her Blackie isn't possible as her eyes aren't black. Conrad says she has really pretty pink eyes and he will call her Momo from now on. Bella doesn't like that name either, but decides not to refuse, as it might seem rebellious. Conrad asks her if she thinks their meeting is really just a coincidence. He feels it was fate that they met. Bella stares at him speechlessly. She, who possessed this body, came to find him with a purpose. It is true it's not a coincidence, but Conrad doesn't know that. As Conrad caresses her, he thinks of how small and delicate she is. The way she tried to protect him makes her so precious and special to him. Conrad promises to give her even more gold in the future. He promises to give her the best room and fulfill everything she wants. He vows to make her happier than she ever was with Tayson and protect her. Bella internally calls him a fool. Only she knows Conrad will soon be dragged to the battlefield and be given a calming potion developed by the temple. Just drinking it will easily suppress his magic, and he will forget even someone like her, a divine beast. When that time comes, she is sure Conrad won't need her anymore. But until then, during the time she spends with him, she will also do her best. The scene shifts to a carriage arriving from the temple. The staff wonders who could be visiting so early in the morning. To their surprise, it is the high priest himself. The high priest informs Ella that it has been confirmed the divine beast given to Lord Tayson lacks calming abilities. Therefore, he urges her to return the divine beast to the temple. The Duchess is enraged and asks the high priest who else knows about this. The priest says only he knows. The Duchess says then the story is over, and it won't be good if the story becomes known to both parties, so they should stop and move on from here. However, she says he will need to take other measures regarding her son's magical pain. The high priest says he has brought some potions that will help the boy for that reason. It's a potion that sorcerers who cannot summon divine beasts often purchase. Duke Hyatt, currently on the front lines, also took it before. Ella requests the potion and consults him about his situation. She remembers how the maids revealed the divine beast attacked them during Conrad's stroll and didn't listen to them. Ella knew Conrad had never rebelled before, so it felt somewhat unsettling. She decides it is better to remove any potential sprouts. She says to the high priest that she heard there is a potion that can turn a person into a puppet without leaving any trace. On the other hand, Bella knows she is in trouble. She has overheard the high priest and Ella's conversation. The high priest trying to take her away while telling such lies is definitely not a good sign. In the original work, Bella's character did disappear at some point, so they must have taken her to the shrine around that time. She doesn't remember it clearly, but she absolutely has no intention of going back there. The bigger problem is that Ella is trying to take the potion. It must be the potion Conrad obtained from the shrine to get Muriel in the original work, a terrible potion that turns people into dolls and makes them live without their original selves. She knows she can't let that happen to him. Bella rushes to the tower in Conrad's room, trying to explain the dangerous situation. However, Conrad doesn't understand her gestures and concludes she wants to kill him because her heart hurts. Bella becomes frustrated, wondering how to explain the story using gestures. Knowing she has no other choice, she resorts to the last method. She covers herself in his blankets and transforms into a human. She tells him to focus, saying she doesn't have time to explain things in detail. She reveals how they are trying to take her back to the shrine, shocking Conrad. She explains the high priest suddenly said they were going to take her back because she doesn't possess any calming ability. She says she is going to try to escape from here right now and pleads with him to erase the seal for her. She says she needs to be free from Hyatt to escape, and since he's a direct descendant, he should be able to erase the seal. She pleads with him, saying she doesn't want to be dragged to the shrine and die like this. Conrad kneels down and assures her he will erase it right away and will never let her die. Within an instant, Conrad manages to completely erase the seal from Bella. Now she can finally escape the estate. She thanks Conrad, saying she owes him her life. She then discloses how he is in danger now, as Ella is trying to make him drink a potion that turns people into puppets. That potion only activates at warm temperatures. She advises him to eat only cold food like stale bread. He must also make sure to cool down the soup before drinking it. She further reveals if he endures things just a little bit longer, he will go to the battlefield, but then the calming potion will be out, so he won't have to worry about feeling pain due to magic anymore. Conrad looks at her with concern, asking if she used up all the magical power she collected just to tell him this. She tells him it's fine, as she will somehow manage to do it again. Conrad swears to survive just like she said, as she is the one who gave him this life. Before he can ask where she will go, Bella returns to her beast form. Bella has completely drained the magic she absorbed, but she is fine, as she has said everything she needed to say. Just then, Conrad hears footsteps approaching. He asks his Momo to get out of there quickly. He ties her golden string, telling her to wear it so he can recognize her. He tells her to come back to him if she doesn't have anywhere else to absorb magic. He vows to protect her no matter what. Bella smiles and speaks in her squirrel voice, saying how he is not a villain and has a beautiful heart, but Conrad is unable to understand her, pissing her off. She leaves. Though it is hard to walk away from Conrad, she hopes she will overcome this hardship and grow into something amazing. Discovering the real Conrad beyond the words that only painted him as a villain was a great blessing for Bella. After Bella leaves, Conrad focuses on the voices shouting and searching for the beast. He knew something had been off about the temple ever since they sold the divine beast to Tayson, and even someone with limited intelligence would realize Tayson's magic was nothing special. A man barges in and asks if he has seen Tayson's divine beast, the squirrel. Conrad says he hasn't. The man says they will have to search his home just in case. The man grunts, finding no sign of the beast. Wanting to earn the prize money, Conrad asks what happens if they don't find the squirrel, to which the man reveals they will probably raise a huge fuss until they do. Conrad suggests the man find a dead squirrel and bring it to them. He promises to engrave the high red seal on it so everyone will mistake it for the divine beast. He suggests the man say he found it dead, attacked by hunting dogs, and even if the real divine beast is found later, he should deny knowing anything. The man is intrigued by the offer but asks why Conrad would go out of his way to do something like this. Conrad asks him to bring him some food secretly in return, something simple like old bread, as he is really hungry. The man doesn't suspect his intentions, as the meals sent to the tower are utterly terrible anyway. He agrees to the conditions and promises to find a squirrel and come back. Conrad knew that this way, he could deceive the temple's eyes, at least for a little while. He remembers the earlier events and how he hesitated for a moment. All he wanted was for her to stay by his side so badly that he considered leaving the seal untouched. But her survival is far more important to Conrad. For the first time in his life, he has found something more significant than his own safety, and that's his Momo. Thinking about it, from the moment they first met, she was extraordinary, tiny yet so resourceful and resolute. He remembers the nights he spent waiting for her to arrive, but now she is no longer part of those nights. On the other hand, Muriel goes through some documents. Her family's financial situation isn't good enough to meet the territory's demands, but since they are near the front line, she knows she can't ignore the first aid requests. Confused, she wonders what to do, wishing someone was there to help her. She is cut off from her thoughts by a sound from the window. She approaches the window and, to her shock, sees a dejected-looking squirrel. Muriel recognizes the golden thread and realizes it is Blackie. Just then, Bella collapses. When Bella regains consciousness, she sees Muriel by her side. She begins to stuff her mouth with the snacks Muriel brought. Muriel asks how she ended up here, as there is quite a distance between the High Red Duke's residence and her home. She tells Blackie not to worry, as she will take her back there. Bella drops her almond in shock. She tries to explain to Muriel that she cannot go back. She uses one of the documents to spell out letters. Muriel deduces they abused her at the estate, so she escaped here. Now that she thinks about it, Muriel remembers how Tayson didn't seem to have the best attitude last time and was horrible to his older brother as well. She swears never to send Blackie back to Hyatt and vows to protect her. On the other hand, the High Priest praises Ravina for handling the divine beast well. He reveals how the day they went to retrieve the beast, they found it dead, bitten by a hunting dog. This confuses Ravina, and she becomes suspicious. The High Priest says it seemed like they had been neglecting the divine beast's care from the start. Plus, he discloses he has handed over the Bevel serum that the Duchess requested, so no one should know. Ravina is quiet for a moment and says she didn't personally handle it at the temple, so it feels a little unsettling. The High Priest says she seems particularly obsessed with that divine beast and tells her not to think about it too seriously. He reminds her how normally divine beasts don't have a strong will to become human, so she doesn't need to worry, as that divine beast is probably the same. On the other hand, Bella is happy that the human plan is proceeding smoothly. In just 5 days, a significant amount of magic has accumulated for her. She had a feeling back then, but as expected, Muriel has magic, plus it is an incredible amount of magic, just like Conrad's. But the amazing part is that this amount of magic is incredibly stable. She wonders how that is possible without a divine beast. Muriel approaches Bella, exhausted from dealing with territories unable to pay taxes during the ongoing war. In the original story, Muriel is beautiful and kind but far from political matters or schemes and is easily swayed by others' words. That's why the Miest family's fortune suddenly declined. Looking at how they treat her, Bella can tell they still take advantage of her even after all this time. She thinks they should stop taking advantage of her. Bella helps her solve a few issues, earning Muriel's gratitude. On the other hand, Duchess Metis cries in guilt for losing her daughter Bella all those years ago. If she hadn't gone to the temple, that wouldn't have happened. She wishes to see her daughter's warm pink eyes again. Bella enjoys her days at Miest, however, her rest is intruded as she spots the Duchess crying from the bedroom window. She approaches her. The Duchess thinks it's Muriel, as she heard she has been raising a squirrel. Bella notices a chunk of hair on the bed. The Duchess reveals it as a lock of her baby's hair. She confesses how she was a lovely child with light brown hair and warm pink eyes. Bella realizes she is talking about her second child. It was discussed during tea time at Hyatt's estate when Ella rudely mentioned the topic. Ella had remarked that Metis seemed strangely prone to children going missing. Duchess Metis said the disappearances often happen to the second or third child in families in Miest. That is why she raised Muriel carefully inside the manor, but on her first birthday, on the way to receive her baptism, they were attacked by bandits. During that time, the Duchess lost her second daughter, and her health deteriorated after that. The Duchess thinks she is foolish for talking about such things to a squirrel. Bella felt bad and wanted to comfort her somehow. She flops to the bed and gestures to touch her belly. The Duchess smiles and agrees. Due to some unknown reason, looking at this little squirrel makes her feel calm. The Duchess asks if she would mind visiting her room occasionally, promising to fill it with sunflower seeds and acorns just for her. Bella smiles and agrees. The scene shifts to Conrad getting ready to join the battlefield. His father has died, a man whose face he can't even remember, so he felt no emotion when he received the news of his death. What's more important is that everything Momo said was true. If not for her, he would have lost his sense of self long ago and become Ella's puppet. He doesn't know how Momo knew all these things, but he trusts her and decides to head to the battlefield as she advised. Once the war is over, he plans to destroy both Hyatt, who tried to tear them apart, and the temples that are threatened. Bella receives news of Conrad joining the battlefield from Muriel. Muriel shares the news that he will remain in the rear due to his poor health and expresses gratitude to Bella for visiting her mother, whose condition has greatly improved. In reality, Bella is the one who feels thankful, as Muriel's help will allow her to gather the magic needed to regain her human form. Determined to explain everything, Bella hides behind the curtains and transforms, leaving Muriel shocked. At that moment, the Duchess enters and is stunned to recognize the figure as her long-lost second daughter, Bella. Overjoyed, the Duchess approached Bella, overwhelmed with happiness. She repeatedly exclaimed that her prayers had been answered by God. Muriel attempted to soothe her mother, but suddenly, the Duchess fainted. Bella was taken aback and unsure of what to do, as this was not how she envisioned her transformation into a human. The Duchess of Mest's physician told Mady that her mother had merely fallen asleep. Mady was deeply concerned about the Duchess's well-being, but the doctor reassured her that she would awaken soon. He theorized that the sight of a man resembling the one she yearned for had momentarily caused the Duchess's consciousness to falter. He mentioned her constant search for a second mistress was the underlying reason. While necessary precautions were taken, the doctor remained concerned about the Duchess's condition upon waking. The doctor explained that if Bella were not present, the Duchess would likely believe she had lost her daughter again, potentially worsening her condition. He emphasized the importance of mental and physical stability at this time and suggested Bella stay at the mansion for the Duchess's sake. With that, the doctor departed. Muriel initiated a conversation, first apologizing to Bella and asking if she was very frightened. Muriel revealed that her younger sister also had brown hair and pink eyes, just like Bella, and it seemed her mother had momentarily confused Bella for her lost daughter. Bella immediately apologized to the Duchess for startling her so much. Muriel, observing Bella, quickly realized she had become human. Muriel mentioned that after dinner at the duchy, she had started reading books about sacred creatures. However, Muriel was puzzled about the source of Bella's magical powers, as becoming human typically required absorbing magic for over 50 days. Bella, being a sacred being, explained that she had been absorbing the Duchess's magical powers all this time. This revelation greatly surprised Muriel, as she was unaware of using any magic. Bella herself didn't know the specifics, only that Mady possessed remarkable magical powers which Bella had been absorbing for 50 days. For a moment, Bella worried she had upset Muriel with this information, but Muriel was immediately delighted that Bella had been helpful and able to assist her friend. As the sacred being, now Bella, had no specific future plans, Muriel offered her to become her younger sister. This proposal greatly surprised Bella. Taking Bella's hand, Mady confessed that she knew her request was selfish, but her mother did not have much time left. She wished for the Duchess to live her remaining days happily believing she had found her daughter. In truth, the original Duchess of Mest could not bear the grief of losing her second daughter and passed away before Muriel reached adulthood. The Duchess had been a kind and warm person, like a mother. Mady apologized to Bella if she was burdening her but expressed her desire for Bella to stay in the duchy. Mady admitted she did not want to part with Bella, acknowledging that Bella's presence had brought vitality to Muriel and Mest. Bella's being nearby had been a great help. Having received so much assistance from Bella, Mady felt her request was incredibly presumptuous. Bella immediately stood up and exclaimed that, on the contrary, she was being shameless for even thinking of refusing Muriel's offer. Becoming the adopted daughter of the Mests had many advantages. Furthermore, there were people in this duchy who already treated her like family without any words, and now it was her turn to reciprocate their kindness. Muriel was overjoyed at Bella's acceptance and immediately embraced her. Looking into Muriel's eyes, Bella, now Bella, declared that from now on she would rely on her sister. Having accepted this role, Bella vowed to do her best in her new position. From that moment, she dedicated herself to protecting the wealth and honor of the Mests and to finding a way to save the Duchess. Rumors began circulating throughout the duchy that a shorter girl, taken from an orphanage and of unknown origin, was now the Duke's daughter. People whispered that she bore a striking resemblance to the second daughter who had disappeared, and some suspected the innocent Mests had been deceived. They recalled that when the Duke was alive and in power, the Mest's influence was significant, and without his insight, the state would naturally decline. Everyone wondered what this fake girl was doing. The owners of the orphanage were very grateful that Bella found time to visit them. Bella thanked them for their welcome, explaining it was her first official visit as a representative of the Mest family. There was considerable talk about her being an orphanage girl, and recognizing this label, Bella decided to use it to demonstrate to the secular world that she was not ashamed of her origins. She also planned to find a specific person. Observing that all the children looked happy, Bella decided to visit all the orphanages to find one particular person, the Empire's best doctor, who later saved the crown prince after he was bedridden due to falling under Justin's spell. This doctor was Ronald Carden, who, unlike other doctors bribed by Justin, never forgot the kindness he received at the Mest orphanage and ultimately saved Mariel's beloved, the crown prince. Following this, Ronald became the imperial family's attending physician, lauded as a genius. However, due to his prolonged stay at the orphanage, his skills took time to fully develop. Bella hoped to accelerate this process. She noticed a stranger nearby, and the shelter's owner explained she was a nanny caring for the children. At that moment, she was playing with them outside, and the children obeyed her implicitly, treating her as a mother figure. This reminded Bella of the Duchess, who was overjoyed at finally finding her daughter. Even though the Duchess was mistaken, she treated Bella kindly, and as Bella was a chipmunk, cared for her like a mother. Therefore, Bella was determined to find Ronald, send him to the academy early, and ensure he could cure the Duchess's illness. The shelter owner mentioned a study room and library on the second floor, beloved by the children. He knew Bella was seeking a child to sponsor and was curious about the extent of her potential support. A strange noise emanated from upstairs, which the owner attributed to the children misbehaving again. He went to investigate, leaving Bella to explore. She felt the conversation implied a request for increased sponsorship. In a corner of the library, she spotted a boy engrossed in a book. Greeting him, the boy startled, dropping the book and apologizing for not hearing her approach. Bella inquired about the captivating book that had so engrossed him. With shining eyes, the boy explained it was a new medical text he'd found in the village, the last remaining copy. Could this be the one Bella was searching for? She immediately asked his name. Slightly flustered, the boy introduced himself as Ronald Carden. It was an incredible stroke of luck, and Bella, unable to contain her joy, expressed her pleasure at meeting him. Bella directly asked Ronald if, given his interest in medicine, he would like to enroll in a medical academy, a question that stunned him. Suddenly, the director appeared, and upon seeing him, Ronald attempted to conceal the medical textbook. The director told him to be honest, and Ronald began to justify himself, claiming he wasn't interested in medicine. Bella was confused, knowing this wasn't true. The director, realizing the situation, turned to Bella and asked her to sponsor Ronald. He explained that Ronald was deeply passionate about medicine and was a bright child. He wished to attend the medical academy but felt he would burden the shelter, so he remained silent. Understanding Ronald's feelings, they had said nothing until now, but Bella's arrival presented an unmissable opportunity. Ronald interrupted the director, shouting that he wouldn't go to the academy. His friends were here, and reading books was sufficient. The director's wife appeared, stating they all knew how he looked at the academy application daily. The children confirmed this, describing how he hid and secretly perused it. Bella took Ronald's hands, saying that with such a passion for medicine, missing this opportunity would upset his shelter family. She swore by the name of Mest that she would care for the shelter, allowing him to focus on his studies without worry. She reiterated her question, would he like to actively pursue his studies at the Academy of Medicine? The director wholeheartedly supported Ronald, urging him to go to school without concern. Ronald was immensely grateful, promising to become a skilled doctor. Bella had successfully found the boy. All that remained was to organize the shelter's paperwork and sponsorship list to report to her sister tomorrow. Thinking back, at this hour, when she was a sacred animal, she would have been preparing to meet Justin. She wondered how he was doing, if everything was all right. The Duke often gathered acorns and nuts, baffling everyone with his habit of placing them on a nearby stump. It turned out he was calling the chipmunks, hoping to find the one. Despite witnessing the Duke's happy expression during these moments, his colleagues never quite understood. Justin remembered being called back to his seat for meal distribution. Not a day passed without him thinking of Lily, wondering if she was well. He thought of her at sunset, the time the chipmunk used to run to him. At night, after the war, Justin vowed to find her and make her human. He believed that upon becoming human, she would have no family or home, leaving him as her only person. In Justin's ideal scenario, he and Lily would become each other's sole family. Bella was pleased Ronald was going to the academy, and he expressed his deep gratitude. He assured her not to worry about the Duchess's illness, which she had mentioned, as he would study diligently and cure her. He also thanked her for her actions regarding the shelter. Everyone was happy about the increased funding and the new library being built. Credit was due to Mariel, who, after reviewing the report, took such measures. Henceforth, Mest would support the shelter, allowing Ronald to be at ease. Bella decided to manage things behind the scenes, and her sister would successfully finalize them. In the original timeline, after Mest's downfall, the Crown Prince did save Mariel, but instead of relying solely on love, it was better for her to have everything secured, providing her with multiple paths to happiness. Ronald inquired if Bella would leave immediately after bringing him to the academy. Bella confirmed, as her sister's birthday was approaching, necessitating her return. This made Bella realize that all her relatives would attend the birthday party, including Mariel's uncle. He was his niece's only advisor, but for some reason, he died prematurely, apparently from poisoning. Bella decided to ask Ronald about his knowledge of poisons. The thought struck her that her mother might have been poisoned, as the temple strictly controlled poisonous medicines. No doctor could possess a lethal dose, unless the poisoning occurred over an extended period. Mariel happily greeted her uncle, Count Jaden Ebert, who arrived a week early. She was sure her mother would be delighted by his visit. He questioned why she rushed out, as it wasn't his first visit, and he could have entered himself. Mady hoped he was secretly pleased to see her, hence his words. Discarding his cloak, Jaden asked if Mariel was in her right mind, as it was quite cold, and he worried she would catch a cold in her light clothing. Given her mother's illness, she needed to be strong. Jaden was surprised to learn of an adopted daughter in the house, especially one given the name of his deceased sister. Mariel explained that her mother believed it was Bella due to her resemblance to her lost sister. Mady believed her uncle would immediately like Bella, but she was mistaken. The atmosphere between Jaden and Bella was extremely tense. Her mother had just finished dinner and was asleep, so Mariel suggested dining without her. Without answering, the Count sipped his wine. Bella immediately sensed her uncle's disapproval. He behaved rudely at their first meeting, and she disliked him as well, especially his treatment of his niece as a servant. Bella decided to eat her meal and retired to her room to avoid unnecessary conflict. Staring sternly at Bella, the Count asked her name. Before she could say she was Bella Mest, he expressed his displeasure at her using his missing niece's name, demanding her real name. To de-escalate the situation, Bella stated her real name was Bella, admitting she was still unaccustomed to the name Bella. The Count froze, surprised that someone would use such a name, considering it more fitting for an animal. Jaden Ebert accused his niece of acting impulsively, believing she wasn't even capable of managing a household, let alone welcoming a stranger into the family. The Count accused his niece, Mariel, of allowing private troops onto Marina's lands, a forbidden act due to it being a border zone. Mariel justified her actions, explaining a battle was occurring nearby, leaving her no alternative. As a condition, she slightly increased the tax rate, replacing cotton taxes with wheat taxes. The main issue was that once permission for private troops was granted, their size couldn't be reduced. However, by limiting food supplies, it would be difficult for Marina to maintain a large force. If the decision to expand troops was made out of concern, then once the situation stabilized, these troops would be reduced naturally. The Count was taken aback, feeling as though Mariel's father had returned, as her decisions mirrored his. He was astonished by her strategic thinking, initially suspecting a change of mentor, but realizing that wasn't possible. Smiling, Mariel clarified it wasn't about a mentor, Bella had simply offered advice, showcasing her remarkable aptitude in such matters. The Count couldn't fathom his niece praising Bella she'd brought into the house. He reflected that it wasn't entirely surprising, considering the Duke's involvement in estate law at a similar age, made possible by his father's exceptional genius. Mady urged her uncle to treat Bella well, as she and her mother considered her family. The Count's expression changed, and he murmured, barely audibly, that he, like everyone else, hoped the real Bella would return someday. To everyone's surprise, the Duchess entered, noticing her daughters dining with Jaden. Turning to Bella, the Duchess inquired about her orphanage visit, expressing her worry. Bella asked about the Duchess's well-being, to which she replied she was spending her time peacefully in the mansion, and would have accompanied Bella if not for her health issues. The Count observed in bewilderment as Bella seamlessly integrated into the family, witnessing their growing friendship. Eventually, they were left alone as Mariel saw her mother off. Bella's breath hitched, as the Count remained silent, not touching his food. Finally, he spoke, apologizing to Bella for his previous behavior, asking forgiveness for his lack of maturity and any hurt he may have caused. Jaden recognized Bella's intelligence and wished to be honest with her. The Mest family was facing a serious crisis. The Duke was missing, and Mariel, without inheriting his position, was managing the family's affairs. Despite her inexperience, she couldn't do everything perfectly, and external scrutiny was harsh. There were those, like a pack of wolves, waiting for an opportunity. The Count didn't want this to happen, but there was a risk something could happen to his niece. The responsibilities entrusted to the Duchess of Mest's daughter would, in such a case, fall to Bella, and the fact that she, unrelated to the family, would be in danger worried Jaden. Others might see it as a stroke of luck to become the Mest's adopted daughter, but he wanted to warn her it was not. Bella thought the man was overly harsh, but realized he was also worried about her, beyond his concern for Mariel. She understood that the Count, though somewhat cold, was a good man who genuinely cared for children. She thanked him for his concern, acknowledging his worries. However, Bella wanted to remain in Mest if possible. The position of the Duchess's daughter wasn't her primary concern. She genuinely enjoyed being with her sister, Mariel, and her mother. She understood she might have to leave someday, but for now, she wanted to help her sister restore Mest and witness the Duchess's recovery. They had become a valuable family to her. Having spoken honestly, Bella felt a slight awkwardness. Count Jaden noted his sister's improved condition compared to recent years, attributing it to Bella's presence. Bella realized she had misjudged the gentleman and vowed to prevent his premature death, as in the original novel. She needed to uncover who intended to poison the Count. Unfamiliar with the situation in Ebert, finding the culprit wouldn't be easy. As a start, Bella decided to check the Count's health, requesting to enter his room. She explained that he had barely eaten dinner, so she brought him sandwiches. Jaden was surprised by the late-night offering, but had little choice as she had already set the table, claiming she made them herself. He suggested Bella might be bothered by his earlier words, upsetting her with his senseless speeches, but she denied it, stating she simply thought he was hungry. However, the Count insisted she needn't worry about his words, as it wasn't an imminent threat. Bella directly asked if Jaden was alright. Suddenly, they were plotting against him. Laughing, he replied that no one held a grudge against him, and his death wouldn't benefit anyone. If something were to happen to him, the Count asked Bella to care for his goddaughter, Sally Lynette, who, according to the doctor, would be sickly for her entire life. Bella was stunned. That was the name of the original novel's main villain. Sally was a villainess who tormented Mariel out of jealousy because the crown prince fell in love with her. She feigned kindness while committing evil deeds, nearly causing a rift between the crown prince and Mariel. Bella didn't recall the original mentioning her illness, but it seemed she still required treatment. The doctor had declared the Count's goddaughter terminally ill, and he worried she would live a life of frailty. In the original, the roles were reversed. Mariel was weak, and Sally spent lavishly and harassed Mady. Considering this, Sally, despite being from a modest family, possessed substantial financial resources. Bella realized the source of these funds and was pleased she could address two issues simultaneously. Lately, Jaden had experienced bloating regardless of what he ate, though he had eaten many sandwiches today. He was concerned, but it seemed Bella was a good child. If the real Bella were alive, she must have been just like her. The Count was informed of Professor Brown's arrival, seeking a brief audience. The professor had come at Lady Bella's behest, reporting a problem with the recent sandwiches and Bella experiencing stomach pains. The Count immediately jumped up, inquiring about her condition. Mr. Brown reassured Jaden, stating Mrs. Mariel was attending to her, but Bella, concerned, had sent him to check on the Count. The man was extremely agitated, assuring them he was fine, just slightly bloated from overeating, and his priority was treating the child. Mrs. Bella was more worried because she had prepared the food, so she requested Professor Brown conduct a medical examination. Jaden believed it was just bloating, but delaying would only increase Bella's worry, so he agreed. After examining him, the professor was deeply concerned, stating further diagnostics were necessary. He urged the Count not to be frightened but to listen carefully. It appeared Jaden had been exposed to poison for a prolonged period. Mariel couldn't comprehend such evil. Even the doctor who treated her had lied, fabricating the illness. It was discovered that Sally Lynette wasn't sick, but rather, exceptionally healthy. Mariel learned that Lynette had grown close to her uncle and requested a loan. Since Sally was like a younger sister, the Count treated her as a second niece, during which time they secretly administered poison to him. Bella's sandwiches proved to be lifesavers. Mariel was immensely grateful to her sister. Without them, it was frightening to imagine what might have befallen her uncle. When Bella was seeing Ronald off to the academy, he explained that the poison wasn't excreted but accumulated in the body, leading to death if a certain amount was reached. Detection was difficult as the toxic reaction wasn't immediate, making it an uncommon method due to the poison's rarity and the prolonged poisoning period. There was only one way to detect it: a herb, found only in the south, caused a reaction in a poisoned person when consumed. However, testing had to be done half a day beforehand. That's why Bella included the herb in the sandwiches, worried the Count might refuse the examination. Mariel informed her sister that her uncle had settled all affairs at home and was returning to thank his savior, and also wished to take her somewhere. Bella hoped the destination wasn't a prison. They descended with the Count into a dimly lit basement, making it hard to discern the location. Jaden brought Bella to a place displaying portraits of past heads of the Mest family. Pointing to one, he identified him as the current Duke of Mest, Oscar Mest. Traditionally, the Mests were known as warriors, a belief reinforced by Bella's visit. The Count's son-in-law was truly a man to be admired, and he followed and respected him as a brother. Perhaps that's why, during important events, he habitually came here. Today, Count Jaden wished to promise his respected son-in-law that he wouldn't forget Bella's kindness, as without her, he would have succumbed to poisoning. Bella tried to downplay her role, claiming it was accidental. Unbeknownst to Mariel, when they went to baptize Bella, Count Jaden accompanied them. His sister insisted on not baptizing her, intending to leave her in the private house, but the gentleman requested to take her. After the attack, when he arrived, Bella was gone. Perhaps the Count knew the Lynette family was suspicious, but due to his guilt towards Sally, whom he viewed as a replacement for Bella, he overlooked everything. Without Mariel, he would still be stuck in the past, oblivious to what was truly important. Count Jaden was deeply grateful to Bella for the sandwich and the diagnostics, recognizing her as family. Everything had turned out for the best. He promised to avoid past mistakes and do everything for his second niece, standing before him. Bella felt reassured, now possessing such a wise ally. Finishing their conversation, the Count suggested his niece go upstairs, as the basement was chilly. Bella paused, noticing numerous animal paintings in the hallway. It turned out there was a legend that the Mest ancestors were beastmen. Since Jaden wasn't a Mest, he didn't know the details, but advised her to ask Mariel. Something irreparable happened at the front line. The escape route was blocked by the enemy. It seemed like the end. Suddenly, a blue beam appeared in the sky. It was none other than the powerful magician, Justin. Believing he was about to die, he decided to try, and thankfully, it worked. The magical power was distorted, rendering it unusable, as it was dangerous. The dupe was unharmed. He ordered the front line to retreat and everyone to regroup, as wild animals might descend from the mountains. One of the knights questioned why they couldn't leave the animals be, as they were innocent. Since Duke Mest disappeared, it was better not to harm animals. Many soldiers had witnessed the Duke transform into a tiger. The knight tried to convince the Duke he was telling the truth. Of course, it sounded absurd that a man could turn into an animal. Justin smiled faintly, instructing him to pretend the conversation never occurred. He knew better than anyone that it wasn't absurd, having personally witnessed a chipmunk transform into a very cute child. For some reason, the Duke thought that if Lily saw him now, she would likely brag that thanks to her, he was able to use so much magic. In that case, he would tell her he would repay her by being by her side all her life. Mariel excitedly called her sister, bearing news: a telegram had arrived, the long-awaited telegram announcing the war's end. Bella asked Ronald about her mother's condition. The doctor reassured her, stating the Duchess was feeling much better. The medicine dosage was reduced, yet the effect remained positive. The lady thanked Ronald. Thanks to him, her body felt so light. He promised that, as her attending physician, he would do everything in his power, and she should trust him. It had been 5 years since Bella met Ronald. The boy, whose medical talent flourished at the academy, was recognized as a brilliant doctor, awarded by the imperial family and granted the title of Viscount. He was urged to take a scientific or professorial position at the academy, but he chose Mest. Ronald flatly refused all offers and, since last month, became the new doctor at Mest, allowing Professor Brown to retire as desired. Bella noticed her mother's significantly improved condition. She thanked Ronald for joining them in Mest, counting on him in the future. He replied that he was able to become a doctor only thanks to her. On the contrary, he was grateful the Mest family allowed him to repay their kindness. Ronald became a doctor at a young age, and her mother recovered faster. Bella was confident in her ability to alter the original story. The Duchess was worried because Mariel was supposed to arrive, but no news came, worrying her that something might have happened. Ronald said he had seen her recently, but she was pale. She claimed to be pain-free, but it seemed Mariel had her hands full. Bella found her sister reading newspapers again. She was pleased to see everyone's joy at the war's end. Maddie felt a deep sense of peace as the long-awaited tranquility had finally arrived. As Bella anticipated, the war was over, but Mariel's soul was troubled. Initially, Maddie followed the military oath, destined to follow in the missing Duke Mest's footsteps. However, the imperial family, fearing the Mest line's disappearance, made marriage to a war hero a condition instead of conscription. Thus, Mariel remained in the capital, performing the Duke's duties. Now, the war was over, and a hero had emerged, a hero who significantly contributed to the war's end. Thanks to a tranquility potion created by the temple, the great mage Justin Hod was awakened. If Mariel didn't harbor feelings for another, there wouldn't be a problem. Maddie was already in love with the crown prince. Bella asked if her sister's recent condition was due to the impending engagement to a war hero, or something else. Looking down, Mariel confirmed her sister's intuition. She had long known this marriage was her duty, striving to suppress her feelings for His Highness. Ultimately, she felt like a burden, a duke's daughter who postponed enlistment, unable to truly rejoice at the war's end, making her feel pathetic. Maddie apologized for expressing such sentiments when she should be celebrating. In Bella's memory, Justin was far from a villain. The reality remained that Mariel had to marry someone she didn't love, a marriage that would bury the man she loved. Mariel, Justin, and the crown prince were doomed to suffer. More importantly, Bella wanted to ensure her sister's happiness. She became human and experienced such joy only thanks to her sister. The Mest property she protected already exceeded her inheritance rights, so she decided to try one last time for this family. Bella asked if the agreement with the imperial family stipulated that the war hero and the Mest daughter would marry. If so, she promised to handle it for her. The people rejoiced at the war's end, thanking the war hero. This hero was the renowned magician from the Duchy of Heard, Duke Justin Hod. He possessed not only immense magical power, but also a menacing and stern appearance, making it impossible to even meet his gaze. The girls believed the hero was very young and so handsome that one could be hypnotized just by looking at him, and as a war hero, he would undoubtedly become the Duke of Heard. The knight reminded the Duke they had to march down the street. The army entered the capital, everyone gazing at Justin Herod with admiration. People whispered, seeing such a handsome man for the first time. A boy with a chipmunk on his shoulder looked at the hero intently. The Duke noticed him, or rather, the chipmunk. With a wave of his hand, he sent the boy an acorn for his pet. Justin was known for his care for animals, even on the battlefield, especially chipmunks and acorn trees. No one understood how a man with such a cold face could love animals, making him seem even more remarkable. From that moment, Bella decided to prevent her sister's marriage to the war hero. Mariel believed it impossible, as it would violate the agreement with the emperor. Her sister understood her concerns. It was difficult for those exempted from military service to alter the agreement. Therefore, Bella suggested ensuring it wouldn't affect the contract. Initially, they would send a letter to Mr. Justin, congratulating him on his victory and thanking him, as citizens of the Empire, for ending the war. Mariel would then remind him of His Majesty's decree regarding the engagement of the war hero and the daughter of the Duchy of Mest, concluding by requesting confirmation and a response. The letter was to be signed as the Lady of the Duchy of Mest, Mariel Mest. She felt it was somewhat improper, as if separating her from the Lady of the Duchy, which was Bella. That was Bella's intention. Currently, there was more than one lady in the Duchy of Mest. If her sister understood correctly, Bella intended to sign the contract for her. Mariel didn't want to allow this, believing it wrong for her sister to sacrifice herself. For Bella, it wasn't a sacrifice. Thanks to Maddie, she enjoyed all the luxuries Mest offered. It was thanks to this duchy that she now existed. Therefore, she asked to bear this debt herself. Mariel's gratitude was boundless, but she feared things might not go as planned, worrying about potential problems for her sister. Bella tenderly hugged her sister, reassuring her that everything would be alright this time, too. Bella believed that in the original story, Justin was supposed to fall in love with Mariel instantly and become obsessed, but now things were different. Because Bella had been present and cared for him, Justin had grown up well. If any issues came up, Bella could remind Justin that she was the one who helped him. Bella expected Justin to reply to the letter within a week. She hoped that after his response, they could finally meet. She was very eager to see him and find out what kind of person he had become. Justin was holding an acorn and thinking about Bella, wondering about her whereabouts and what she was doing. He was unsure how to begin searching for her. The Duke received news that, on his orders, the knights had imprisoned the Duchess and Theodore in the basement. Furthermore, the Lord had commanded the capture of all the servants who had escaped. Justin received a letter from someone. After reading it, he angrily crumpled it in his hand. The knight was scared, confused about what the letter contained that made his master so angry. The Duke dismissed the letter's contents as unimportant and considered the proposed wedding to be foolish. The assistant thought the Duke should still respond to the letter to gain influence over the secular society and maintain good relations with the Meds. Justin did not understand the benefit of controlling them, as he only wanted to live happily with Bella. Hearing this, the assistant became annoyed, explaining that if he didn't respond, Bella might hear rumors that he was arrogant and uncaring. There was a problem Justin was unaware of. Bella might misunderstand when she learned of his connection to Modest. The Duke decided to visit Modest the next day. Based on the letter, it seemed they were serious about the engagement. To prevent this, Justin decided to immediately request to end the engagement. Bella returned to the hall with the Duke portraits. She had discovered this place and often came here when she was deep in thought. The silence of the hall allowed her to organize her thoughts, and she felt calm when surrounded by the silent portraits that seemed to be listening. Bella started talking to the portrait of a duke, telling him that the war had ended, the empire had won, and everyone was celebrating, with social gatherings becoming popular again. Bella confessed that the war's end was actually concerning for her because the temple would become active again. She remembered how suspicious the temple was. They had even lied about her lacking calming abilities, yet they wanted her back. Mariel mentioned that the Medist ancestors were sacred beings, which Bella considered a common family legend. She found no further information in her family library. However, the legends about Medist beasts, disappearing children, and sacred creatures controlling the temple made her feel like something was hidden within the temple. Although she might be wrong, Bella decided to investigate further, believing it wouldn't hurt to learn more. Bella was informed that the doctor had arrived and she needed to go upstairs. Before leaving, she turned to the portrait of Duke Mest again and asked for support. Mariel was very excited to hear Justin had arrived. Her maid told Justin to announce his arrival first and then come to the mansion, but Justin insisted on meeting immediately. Mariel was unsure what to do and assumed Justin was rushing to see her because he was eager to marry her. Mariel panicked, hoping the Duke hadn't fallen in love with her at first sight because he didn't seem like that type. She wanted to tell Bella everything right away but remembered Bella and Ronald were visiting their mother, and the medical examination had just started. She worried that a sudden call might worry her mother. So, Mariel decided to meet the war hero herself. The maid then delivered a message from Madame Bella to Mariel. Bella had heard from the butler about Justin's arrival and asked Mariel to delay the meeting, saying she would come as quickly as possible. In the end, Bella wrote that even if Mariel had to tell the Duke the truth, Mariel should do it. Ronald told Bella that she was very helpful during the treatment that day. He invited Bella to have tea with him if she had time, but Bella apologized, explaining that a guest had arrived and she needed to go. However, Ronald noticed Bella turned very pale after these words. An idea struck Bella. She asked Ronald if there was a medicine that could make someone's complexion pale. Seeing Ronald's confused expression, she explained that she needed to look more unhappy in front of a certain person. When Ronald understood what Bella wanted the medicine for, he happily took out his suitcase and said such a drug existed. This medicine, which reversed the flow of magical energy in the body, causing a rapid worsening of complexion, was not yet commercially available, but Ronald had developed it himself, so its effectiveness and safety were assured. Bella was extremely surprised, having no idea why Ronald would create such a medicine. It turned out Ronald had developed it as a way to escape the academy if he was ever forced to stay, planning to use it to fake illness. He assured Bella that he had personally conducted clinical trials, so she shouldn't worry. Bella drank the medicine and remarked that the taste wasn't too bad. She felt dizzy and almost fell, but Ronald caught her in time. The doctor was surprised by how quickly the medicine took effect. Ronald helped Bella, who was still very pale, almost to her destination, commenting that the effect seemed too strong and he would need to check on her condition. Bella overheard Justin telling Mariel that he would soon meet the Emperor and inform him of the broken engagement. As the Duke was leaving, he saw Bella being supported by Ronald. Approaching Bella, Justin asked what she was doing there. Moments earlier, Mariel had been contemplating how to tell Justin the truth, wanting to get it over with before Bella arrived. She needed to be careful not to make the Duke completely reject her. Suddenly, Justin burst into the room, exclaiming that they hadn't seen Lady Mariel in a long time. Mariel was startled by his sudden entrance into her office and noticed that Justin's aura was completely different. His cold expression made her feel even more intimidated. Mariel pointed out to Justin that barging in without even replying to the letter was very rude. Justin didn't apologize but simply stated that her assessment of his actions was correct. He moved closer and said he understood Mariel didn't want to miss out on a war hero and the heir to the head family with its long history, but he wasn't going to play along with her. Justin spoke concisely, expressing his desire to break off the engagement. He deliberately acted cold and arrogant, hoping Mariel would be the one to call it off. He added that his decision was final. All Mariel managed to say was that she also wanted to break off the engagement. In that case, Justin suggested they immediately write a separation certificate. The Duke began to write that Justin Harrod and Lady Mest were annulling their engagement according to the imperial decree. Mariel was completely bewildered. This was the outcome they wanted, but Bella had warned that Hyatt wouldn't let the modest family off so easily because he had limited political influence. Mariel thought she must have missed something, so she decided to stall. First, she mentioned she had a younger sister, Bella, also a Lady Modest, and they could only finalize the agreement when she arrived. Justin refused to wait for anyone, reiterating that he had no intention of getting involved with the Mests, as it would only be burdensome and inconvenient for him. Mariel was confused about what exactly would be inconvenient since he hadn't even met Bella yet. In that case, Mariel suggested adding a clause stating that their agreement could not be cancelled. Justin also insisted that Mariel be recorded as Lady Modest, as originally stated in the decree, as he had no intention of contacting either sister again. Mariel told Justin that even though he was a very rude man, she hoped he would be true to his word and not change his mind later. Justin confidently stated that he never went back on his word, so she had nothing to worry about. He would soon see the Emperor and inform him about the broken engagement. Justin couldn't believe his affairs were being resolved so quickly. Now he could actively start searching for Bella. Seeing her in the hallway, he couldn't believe it was real and couldn't understand how she ended up in this family. Mariel rushed out of the office to tell Bella that the engagement issue was resolved successfully. Bella turned to Ronald and said she felt completely fine now. At that moment, Justin realized that the sister Mariel had been talking about was Bella. Mariel excitedly told her sister that she and the Duke had just made an unchangeable agreement and signed it. She was very enthusiastic, calling the Duke's character terrible but noting that he had assured her he didn't change his words. Mariel thanked Duke Harrod for his courageous decision. Bella also wanted to express her gratitude and asked Justin to spare some time. She told him that thanks to these circumstances, she had successfully become human. Deep down, Justin was happy that Bella had succeeded. He admitted he had always wondered where she was and how she was doing. Bella reciprocated his feelings, mentioning their sudden separation and how genuinely glad she was that Justin was back safe and sound. Before him was the same warm smile of his Bella from before, which he had only recently seen in his thoughts. He had once thought he was the only one who could help her become a person and a member of a family. Now, Bella had another family beside her. Justin decided to ask directly who the man next to her was. Smiling slightly, Bella said it was Ronald, the attending physician and her friend. She quietly told the Duke that everyone knew she had lived in an orphanage and been adopted, and she asked Justin to keep her origin a secret as she was still concerned about the temple searching for her. Justin assured her she didn't need to worry because he was soon going to overthrow the temple. Suddenly, Bella's face turned pale again. She didn't understand what was happening, as she had felt fine just moments ago. She asked to call Ronald urgently. A few seconds later, Bella transformed back into a chipmunk. Mariel was very pleased that she had broken off the engagement without any problems. Sir Hod turned out to be even more arrogant and rude than rumored, and Mariel worried about leaving Bella alone with such a man. Mariel noticed Bella had just looked pale and asked Ronald if she was in pain. The doctor explained that Bella had asked him for medicine to make her look pale, which he had given her, causing her current appearance. Mariel appreciated the effect, as her sister had indeed turned pale. Ronald added that Bella had said she felt fine, but her condition worsened after taking the medicine. He felt it was wrong to prescribe such a drug and hoped nothing bad would happen. Bella couldn't believe she had turned back into a chipmunk. She was shocked because she had thought it was impossible to revert to animal form after 5 years of being human. She knew she had to calm down and think. The medicine disrupted magical energy, which wasn't a big deal for ordinary people, but it was dangerous for sacred beasts. Justin carefully picked up Bella and asked why she had become a chipmunk again. Looking at him up close, she realized how much of a good man he had become. His hands were bigger than before. In her chipmunk form, looking at Justin, Bella realized how tall he had grown. The Duke offered the chipmunk to take his magical powers. Justin wanted to help Bella become human again by offering her his magical powers. It seemed like she was recovering well. Bella worried that she would need 50 days to replenish her magic, but she hoped that the medicine could allow her to replenish it all at once. Suddenly, Chipmunk Bella realized that if she turned human, she would be naked. She needed clothes urgently. Before she could reach her clothes, she transformed back into human Bella and screamed for Justin not to look at her. Ronald and Marielle heard her screams and quickly ran to the room to check on her, loudly knocking on the door and intending to enter. Bella only had time to shout for her sister to wait a minute while Justin quickly buttoned up her dress. Marielle noticed that both the Duke and her sister sounded strange, as if Mr. Herod was flustered. Ronald, abandoning manners, suggested they enter immediately, as it was clear something had happened. The doctor suddenly threw open the doors, announcing their entry. It was obvious from Justin and Bella's faces that they were both worried. Marielle, the younger sister, asked what had happened since they had burst in so abruptly, remarking that Bella looked like she had aged 10 years and had almost been embarrassed. Ronald asked if Bella was all right as she looked out of breath. Bella quickly made up an excuse, saying it was a nice day and they had both gone out for some fresh air on the terrace. Laughing awkwardly, Bella insisted she was fine and her complexion had even improved again, suggesting the medicine had worked too strongly. Turning to Ronald, Bella asked him to bring as much of the complexion-worsening medicine as possible. At this point, she tried to dismiss her sister and the doctor, saying that since they were convinced she was all right, they could leave, but she still needed to talk to Sir Justin. Marielle and Ronald were shown the door, completely bewildered by what had just transpired. The doctor noticed that Mr. Herod's complexion was much paler. Bella apologized to the Duke for scaring him so much, explaining that she had been human for so long she had forgotten about such transformations. Justin then asked her how she had turned into a chipmunk again, but Bella wasn't sure. She had an idea and wanted to conduct an experiment, needing Duke Herod's help. She asked to accompany him to the temple for the triumphal ceremony, planning to hide in his arms as a chipmunk. The war had ended sooner than expected, immediately after the calming potion was developed, and a hero had emerged. The chief priest, Chloe, was unaware that Herod's eldest son possessed such magical powers and needed to investigate. Chloe recalled the sacred creature sent to Herod earlier, noting that it was in the same place as Justin Hyde. It was possible it could have become human. However, when the priest tried to retrieve it, the animal had already died and had the Herod coat of arms on its chest. All of this coincided with the appearance of the adopted daughter in Meads. Chloe reasoned that a direct descendant of Herod could easily place a mark. Chloe was worried about many things, but even so, they were now facing opponents the temple couldn't easily disturb because Duke Stin was recognized as a war hero, and the adopted daughter had greatly helped the Mest family. In that case, the temple could do nothing. Chloe decided to go out herself and investigate as soon as Justin Herod returned to the capital. Upon Justin Herod's return to the capital, he immediately broke off his engagement with Marielle Mest, which was reported in all the newspapers. Worried about the girls, their uncle immediately set out to visit them, but the Duke arrived at the Mest residence before him. Things had been resolved too easily. The Count hoped nothing else would happen in the city. People were whispering about the news concerning the Duchess of Hyrule. Master Justin had locked the Duchess and young Master Theodore in the dungeon and even expelled all the servants, despite the Duchess being his stepmother. People thought the young Duke was too cruel to the woman who raised him. The Count was relieved that the Duke had broken off the engagement without issue and had even insisted on it himself, making the Count confident he wouldn't change his mind. However, there was also news in the papers that Duke Herod was changing his words again, having asked the temple to hold the victory ceremony again, after initially refusing. The press knew that the Duke visited the Mests every day and saw Lady Bella, which was considered unusual behavior after breaking off an engagement. This news infuriated the Count. He couldn't understand how the Duke dared to break off the engagement unilaterally and then visit their Bella. The Count desperately hoped Justin wouldn't retract his decision to break off the engagement. The Duke wondered if there was magic that could turn back time so he wouldn't have made the agreement to break off the engagement. Bella was unaware that Justin had reconsidered and agreed to the ceremony. She felt very sorry that because of her, he had agreed again, and now rumors were spreading throughout the empire. Bella blamed herself, fearing everyone would think Duke Harad was a strange person causing problems for the temple. But Justin didn't care at all, even if everyone misunderstood. Bella thought Justin was very kind but couldn't understand why there were always strange rumors about him. The ceremony was scheduled to take place next month. Bella had time to test the medicine Ronald had given her. As Bella mentioned, the imperial family started to become active when they heard the temple would hold a ceremony. The imperial family decided to organize a victory banquet, planning it to be held even sooner. The temple's influence was significant in the empire, and the crown prince couldn't remain passive. He must have decided that the solemn ceremony for a war hero shouldn't be solely in the temple's hands. Justin asked Bella if she had already chosen a partner for the banquet. Bella had already considered this and was thinking about several men she was close to, like Can Cates. The Duke pretended not to care and claimed he was just curious, but it was important for him to know who this girl was close to. So far, Bella's first choice was Duke Harad. If she chose him, it wouldn't be strange for the Crown Prince's sister to be there as partners, and the Mest's position would also be strengthened. Furthermore, if Bella attended the banquet as the war hero's partner, everyone would notice her, making it harder for the temple to target her. Justin then told Bella that if the temple bothered her, he could wipe it off the face of the earth in one fell swoop. Bella panicked because that was definitely not what should happen. She intended to investigate something within the temple, and if the Duke destroyed it completely, they wouldn't be able to uncover the truth. Bella noticed it was very noisy outside, and the voice sounded familiar. It was her uncle, who had come to ensure his niece was all right. Bursting into the office, the Count began to shout, saying that they were saying this damned crazy hero was pestering Bella. The only thing Jaden Ebert didn't realize was that this crazy hero was currently in the room with his niece. Bella was displeased that her uncle had entered her room so abruptly. The gentleman started to justify himself, saying he got upset when he heard talk about the Duke breaking off the engagement but continuing to visit. Since they were meeting for the first time, the Duke decided to interrupt the conversation between Bella and her uncle and introduce himself. Slightly embarrassed, the Count extended his hand to Justin and also introduced himself. He was surprised that this Duke was different from the rumors. Jaden Ebert was about to apologize, but Justin interrupted him, saying it was alright, and the article was written in a way that could give the wrong impression. Justin needed to appear respectable to bring up the topic of marriage again later, so he intended to explain himself in person. The Duke invited the Count to sit down and talk. The first thing Jaden Ebert asked was if the two knew each other before. Bella said that when they were young, she received a lot of support from Justin. Then, the Duke went off to war, and there was no news of him, and now he was visiting her because they were glad to meet again, even though it was already late. Jaden Ebert decided to thank the master for helping their Bella. The Count felt a little relieved knowing his niece and the Duke were already acquainted, but he still wanted to ask about the newspaper articles. The girls were his very dear nieces, so the gentleman wanted to clarify everything that was bothering him. Jaden Ebert wanted to know if it was true that Justin had cancelled the triumph ceremony and then changed his mind. Bella knew it was all because of her, but she couldn't reveal that she was a sacred being. The Duke replied that it was true, and to reward the soldiers for their hard work, he shamelessly asked for it again. The Count thought if that was the reason, then it made sense. Next, Jaden Ebert showed an article stating that Duke Harad had thrown his stepmother and stepbrother into prison. Justin also confirmed that this was also true. According to the expelled servants, the Duchess provided her stepson with a doctor, and he received adequate treatment. Bella knew the truth was that there was no real treatment, they all just watched as they abused the sick child. Bella tried to explain to her uncle that he didn't know the family's secrets unless he was part of them, and instead of believing rumors, she asked him to personally observe Justin and form his own opinion. There was no doubt in Bella's mind that the Duke was much nicer and kinder than the articles described. In fact, Bella truly thought Justin seemed like a decent and rather respectable man. The Count once again asked for forgiveness for his rude behavior after hearing the rumors. Next, Jaden Ebert focused on the articles about his nieces. There were clippings from an article where Bella first visited the orphanage, and it noted that the two got along well. The uncle handed Bella an Oriental newsletter he had brought just in case, mentioning it seemed not to have been published in the capital's newspapers yet. It announced the engagement of His Royal Highness Theo. It was reported that he met his bride on the way to treatment and fell in love at first sight. The lucky one was the daughter of the Sebs family, a new noble family from the east. Theo was the second prince, a half-brother of the crown prince, a man full of ambition to keep the crown prince under control. He had allied with Justin and then betrayed him. This was the first time Bella had heard the name of his fiancée, Erica Sebs. She didn't remember that character being in the original story. Bella shared with her uncle that she was curious if this was true, as it was the first time she had heard about the Sebs family. The Count was also puzzled because he had never heard anything about this family, and there was no such news in the daily reports from the information chamber. This engagement in the imperial family couldn't have been kept so quiet. Bella realized that if this news was true and the engagement was announced at the victory banquet, then the main focus of the banquet would be Prince Theo, along with whoever came as his partner. Bella couldn't allow this to happen because then things wouldn't go according to plan. Turning to Justin, Bella said she knew the victory banquet could greatly impact his political standing, but she wanted him to be her partner. Erica Sebs greeted the prince after greeting his bride, and Theo asked if she had brought the sacred chipmunk he had spoken of. Bella told Justin that if they showed up at the banquet as partners, people would definitely talk because the Duke was a war hero and the star of the banquet, and she was just an adopted daughter from an orphanage. That's why Bella suggested they come up with a story beforehand about how they met. It was obvious to the Duke that Bella still thought of him as a good friend, but if he married her right now when she didn't have romantic feelings for him, it would just be a marriage of convenience. Justin came up with an idea about how they met. Supposedly, when he went to Duke Mbest's residence to break off the engagement, he fell in love with Bella at first sight because she was too beautiful. Therefore, the Duke had visited the Duke's house every day to see her as often as possible. Bella really liked this story, and it also explained why he visited her so often. In that case, there would be even more talk. Bella added that they could also say they were lovers and were thinking of getting engaged. Bella was pleased that the first matter was settled, which wasn't the case for Justin, because getting engaged to her was his cherished dream. The guy couldn't do anything, he had no choice but to spend more time to win Bella's heart. Mariel was sure everyone was eagerly anticipating the victory banquet, as it was the first official banquet since the end of the war. Because of this, her desk was overflowing with invitations to social parties, but she wasn't planning to attend any of them. Mariel assumed her sister had declined all invitations because she wasn't feeling well. Mariel really didn't want people to know during conversations that she was the crown prince's partner. She thought it was a good decision because if it became known, there would be rumors of feelings between them even before the war. If it was known that Mariel, engaged to a war hero, had already given her heart to the crown prince, she would be accused of being frivolous in her contract with the imperial family. So, it was better to be safe and avoid social parties. Mariel was surprised that Bella wasn't going to social events either. Mariel had her own reasons for not going, but she thought it would be great if Bella went and made friends, as she still didn't have a friend her age. Bella didn't think it was a problem because she had a friend named Justin. From Mariel's perspective, the Duke's gaze was too beastly to call him a friend. Laughing, Bella reminded her sister that out of all of them, she was the only beast there, and she had been one since birth, an animal that could turn human and live like that. Bella understood that if the real Bella were alive and returned later, she would have to leave, which would be extremely difficult. Bella decided to end the conversation with her sister as she had plans and was going to the information center. Currently, Bella had made deals with several information guilds to monitor the temple's activities and gather information useful to Modest. Of these guilds, the closest to her was the Informa Guild. Rana, the head of Informa, was delighted to see Bella visit in person. Bella's arrival was timely, as Rana was about to send her a letter, and this way, they could talk face to face. The news wasn't good, someone was spreading bad rumors about Bella. They said Bella was an adopted daughter, ignorant of her place, accustomed to luxury, a cunning orphan manipulating the innocent Lady Marielle. Rihanna traced the source of the rumors to the eastern county of Sebs. Bella had been suspicious ever since she first heard the name. Since she had become her target, it meant this Erica Sebs had doubts about Bella's identity, possibly related to the temple. So, Bella had no choice but to investigate further and wait. Rihanna heard Bella was going to attend the victory banquet as Duke Herod's partner and warned her to be careful. Mages, she said, were people without common sense, sly all day long, so even if he behaved kindly, he shouldn't be underestimated. Bella reassured Rihanna, saying she didn't know about other magicians, but looking at Justin, one could see he was a genuinely nice and cute person. With that, Bella took her leave, promising Rihanna to contact her soon. Inma's eyes only managed to shout after her, urging Bella to heed her words and ensure no problems arose during the banquet, as Bella had managed everything well so far. Those present at the banquet noticed Prince Theo's appearance, as he had recently returned from a recuperation trip to the east and looked much better. No one knew who the girl next to His Highness was, there were only rumors she was his bride. One thing was clear, the prince valued her. Theo whispered in Erica's ear that since his engagement was at stake, he hoped to benefit. Erica asked him not to worry, assuring him the problem would be solved, as Theo also owed a lot to the temple, and this was his way of repaying it. Erica had hidden the fact that he was a mage. This decision was beneficial for both the prince and the temple. If this fact had been revealed, the second prince would have been sent to war and found himself in an even more disadvantageous position in the struggle for the throne. It would also be difficult for the temple to influence the imperial family. Come to think of it, Theo felt much better thanks to the calming potion. Mages didn't have to go to the temple, but he still thought it was much better to get calm from the sacred beast. There was certainly a difference, although the sacred chipmunk stood out and was the one that gave Theo his first sense of peace. Perhaps the chipmunk was so smart because the magician chipmunk was a powerful sacred beast created with Duke Mest's magical power. The more Theo used the calming potion, the more he felt the difference with the sacred beast, and because of this, he compared even more the newly arrived Duke Heard and Lady Bella Mest as they were introduced. It was Bella's first time at such an event. She couldn't take her eyes off all the people, maybe because it was the first victory banquet, but everyone there was from noble families. Bella overheard ladies whispering behind her back that the rumors about her being an adopted daughter who didn't know her place were true. Bella herself had allowed the rumors to spread to avoid suspicion, so she decided not to disappoint them and be as extravagant and rude as the rumors suggested. But she felt sorry for Justin because she, his partner, didn't care about her reputation. Bella decided that after they sorted this matter out, they should definitely spread the rumor that she had been abandoned. It was a great honor for the Duke to come to this banquet as Bella's partner, but for him, it was a great relief, although he had heard something unpleasant before coming. His right hand had tried to explain to him that meeting someone he liked wasn't the end. If everything was good between partners, all the love in the world would be without conflict. A banquet where all nobles appeared in their glory was a place for dating since ancient times, and someone might fall in love with Bella. After these words, Justin tried to stay close and vigilant. The Empire owed a great debt to the great mage Duke Justin Heard, and the Emperor declared that despite the vile rumors, everyone should pay attention to his true character. As soon as Justin decided to stay close to Bella, he immediately went to her. Bella noticed the congratulatory speech was quite long and she should be alone for now. The Emperor spoke very strange words, not like congratulations at all. He recalled how the Duke had retracted his words and how he had imprisoned his own brother. Bella again heard whispers behind her back, shamelessly discussing her, calling her an orphan lady who thought she was a real princess. Bella was thinking about how to start her plan, but everything turned out even better than she expected. These ill-mannered ladies would become her bait. Approaching them with a smile, Bella asked if it seemed to her that they were discussing her. The ladies were indignant, replying that it was rude to eavesdrop on other people's conversations. Bella laughed, pointing out they were gossiping too loudly to not be overheard. In a completely serious tone, she said the ladies probably didn't know yet that Duke Herod was in love with her, and she was very curious how these ill-mannered persons would correct their behavior when she later became Duchess of Herod. One of them loudly complained that Lady Bella was threatening them with unrealistic threats. Their conflict was interrupted by a girl who came up to introduce herself to everyone for the first time. It was Erica Sebs. Erica said His Majesty was giving a congratulatory speech, and the ladies were disturbing it too much with their noise. As Bella thought, Erica only approached when she heard a commotion. Handing the ladies glasses of champagne, Erica suggested making peace on such a beautiful day. The champagne was weak, but Bella hoped it would calm the two conflicting parties for a moment. Bella froze as the glasses were brought by Erica's personal servant, and if Erica was connected to the temple, who knew what could be in the glass? Bella decided to be rude to avoid risks. She thanked Erica for her kindness and for interceding. Bella handed a glass of champagne to the lady who had been rude to her, intending to return the favor she had been given by Erica. At that moment, Prince Theo approached Erica and Bella. It seemed the prince approached with good intentions, suggesting they not fuss on such a fine day, adding it would be good to stop now and focus on His Majesty's congratulatory speech. Bella was very surprised that the prince personally intervened. His Highness insisted that Lady Bella also relax a little. He took the glass from a lady's hand. Since the prince had intervened so suddenly and even taken the glass, Bella assumed these two were on the same team now. With the prince's intervention, Bella felt she couldn't do anything and decided to simply retreat, thanking His Highness for resolving the conflict. She was about to leave, but Prince Theo grabbed her hand and asked her name. Bella couldn't believe what was happening, as the prince had just deliberately touched her. Looking into her eyes, Theo asked if they had met before. Noticing her surprised look, he immediately said it was okay if she didn't remember, saying they would talk a little later. Theo left, and Bella was left standing in complete confusion, not understanding what had just happened. While listening to the Emperor's speech, Justin watched Bella out of the corner of his eye and her interaction with the second prince. If a prince was involved, things became complicated, because due to an oath passed down from ancient times, mages couldn't use magic against the royal family. If the prince and the Sebs had common intentions, it was not at all beneficial for them. It was worth being on guard. At this point, the congratulatory speech ended, so everyone could enjoy the banquet. As soon as Justin was free, Bella immediately rushed to him. She hugged him publicly, saying she missed him and even short separations were hard. The Duke was clearly perplexed by her words, having dreamed of them but understanding it was all for show. Barely audibly, Bella whispered to him to quickly pretend to be full of love as planned. Gently embracing Bella, Justin told her, looking into her eyes, that his heart wouldn't cope if he left her alone for long. Beautiful in front of everyone, he promised Bella that after the banquet, he would fill her room with the best jewelry, as he had missed her so much. Bella froze. Justin was so shamelessly good, as if he was absolutely sincere. The Duke asked Bella if she and Prince Theo knew each other. She said she didn't know him, believing it was their first meeting, although it was suspicious he came with Lady SBS. The Duke had a bad feeling about this and asked Bella to avoid situations where they might be alone with the prince. Justin admitted that he and his girlfriend danced very well together. He promised to try even harder in the future to remain her partner, saying it in such a way that Bella considered him an acting genius. Bella again heard whispers around her, as if Duke Heard had gone completely blind and not even noticed how this impostor had deceived him. The aristocrats were convinced that in the capital, one could find more worthy ladies than this orphan. Listening to all this, Justin had only one thought: to sweep everything away. But Bella tried to calm him down, saying it was just gossip. Theo approached again with Erica, apologizing for disturbing the couple. He announced that he and Erica had decided to get married and were announcing their engagement. The aristocrats pounced on Erica with questions from various areas of the empire's life, and she promised to answer them all after the war. Secular society brought in good money if they collected funds to support the temple, and if the second prince and Erica gained power in society, it wouldn't be difficult for her to ruin Bella's reputation. If that worked, Mest would refuse adoption, and even if they brought her to the temple and experimented, no one would even look for Bella. Then it would become clear whether she was that sacred chipmunk beast. Suddenly, Lady Modest screamed throughout the hall, calling for her companion, who also expressed a desire to get engaged. Looking at those around her in complete bewilderment, Bella asked if they, too, could not be engaged to Duke Rod.